Good afternoon. I'm Carl Garth and welcome to the Champion Chat with Councillor Alison Champion. Good afternoon, Alison. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Carl. Thank you for asking. Happy to be here as always. How about you?
Oh, look, it's Friday, always one of my favourite days of the week. Get a bit of exercise and go hard at the day.
Yeah, sounds like my day. Good.
Excellent, excellent. So today, Alison, we're going to revisit our series on social change and local government, take a bit of a break from FOGO and that, and we'll have a bit of a deeper look at what social enterprises are actually operating within the Banyule City.
Good.
Alison, just I suppose for a little bit of background for people, we know that social enterprises are businesses that intentionally look to tackle social problems within a community and to improve those communities and provide people access to employment and training or help the environment. Now, in 2020, Banyule City released its 2020 to 2025 social enterprise strategy. And it was a great plan, had a lot laid out. Unfortunately, we had 2 years of COVID. So what's been the impact that COVID has actually had on that strategy? Are you able to sort of enlighten us a little bit there?
Look, the intention continues, obviously. Probably one of the most significant impacts, which is common across the board for a lot of businesses and plans, is the timing and the time frame. So if anything, look, our goals have shifted a little due to the lockdowns that we've had in 2020 and 2021, when we can still communicate. It's not that we couldn't do that, it's just that we couldn't go ahead and be in person and go forward with some of the activities. But the communication is still there, has always been there. The plans have always been there. And so really, so in 2020 and 2021, our lockdowns possibly pushed dates back, pushed dates out. And for this year, really there's been a fallout this year of those last 2 years. And the fallout has been a lot of us have contracted COVID somehow, some way. And we're out for a week or 2 weeks. We can still communicate, we just can't be in the same room as somebody else. So really the goals have probably just been pushed out a little bit because of that. The intention is still there though.
Okay.
We're still going. We haven't stopped. We're still going. And I'll mention a few more things, give some more examples later in our conversation.
Okay. And look, I have seen, had a look on the council websites and have seen there is a bit of promotion exposure, not just to communications, around the existing social enterprises. And I have seen that, some of the testimonial videos that are even on that site and on the websites of some of those social enterprises, and they do highlight that council has actually helped them with not only promoting them within the community, but also helping them identify people who would be a good fit in the social enterprise, people who might not always find it easy to find employment in other areas. Is there actually so understanding the Council of Help, is that actually officially through an office in council offices?
Well, our officers certainly do a lot of work to connect people, find people. So you mentioned you mentioned that we attempt to overcome barriers for employment. And I know that we've discussed this before. Earlier this year, when Councillor Rick joined us in a podcast, he mentioned we talked about the inclusive employment strategy that council has. So our officers actually, that's what they do. This is what they do. They look for opportunities and create programs for such residents, because they are open to residents of Banyule, so I'll refer to them as residents. So we actually have officers looking after that and taking care of that process, and then they report back to us.
Okay, so just like the inclusive jobs that council do, which you can apply for at certain times, you could also then register your interest for employment and then potentially be matched up with a social enterprise.
Mm.
Okay, that's excellent.
That's something that we can do for people. Yep.
Brilliant.
Mm.
And so obviously you talked about the timelines moving on the strategy. Do we feel like though we've lost probably a bit of momentum? Do we need to look at how to rebuild momentum, not just from a communications perspective, but also to inspire maybe other people to want to build or create a new social enterprise?
That word momentum, it has lacked a little bit, hasn't it? It's been this year. I've noticed this year that momentum has had to be recreated after the last 2 years in a variety of areas, not just this one, but a variety of areas. I think for our officers, I don't think momentum is really the issue. It's part of the process, the fallout, as I call it, of our last 2 years of lockdowns, but I don't think it's actually the issue. The people who are generally the people who are responsible for creating these opportunities, whether it's officers or whether it's the enterprise themselves, they do it because they love it and they're already motivated. They're already looking ahead. They're already looking forward to the next opportunity. So, and it's really exciting, especially for these people who need to create this work and these opportunities. So the residents whom these opportunities arise for, so the residents themselves, when they learn about these social enterprise opportunities, these employment opportunities, when they learn about those, they're actually inspired by that, and they go, wow, I actually have a chance here, this is so great. And so they end up, you know, quickly applying, or they end up, you know, making sure that they're in the system, if you like, if that's the right expression, or they've got that opportunity there. And the thing is, these people already have the spirit of wanting to work. They really want to work. People want to have a job. They want to have a job because they want to earn an income, because where they live, obviously there are bills associated with where they live, whether they're renting or buying. So they want to earn an income. They want to be independent. And more importantly than all of that, they actually want to be valuable to other people, and they want to feel valued. And that's priceless. So those wants, those basic wants of humanity, are bigger than any momentum.
Yeah, well, we are social creatures, aren't we? So for many people, having that ability to work is also an ability to connect with people socially, you know, feel valued, feel like you're a contributing factor somewhere. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'll also add, it's also about the location and the opportunity as they arise. Okay, so, you know, that they'll show up or they'll be created, and that's also, again, something else that is not connected with momentum. And our officers end up communicating with the appropriate authorities or the appropriate stakeholder at the relevant times. So I'm going to give a couple of examples. So I mentioned this earlier. So some examples of our social enterprise. We've got the Little Social Cafe, which is at Rosanna train station. Now, our train stations are under the jurisdiction of the state government. So it's a state government project, Rosanna train station, along with all the other train stations that are being rebuilt. They are state projects. Now, when we in Banyule, when we see, you know, the plans and, you know, the time frame and so forth, we look at that and go, okay, how can we contribute in here? What is available for us, for our community, to partake in this project? And so this is where there was going to be a cafe put into Rosanna Station. That was part of the plan. And we obviously approached the members, and we just said, look, we'd be really interested in putting in a social enterprise cafe there. If it's going to be a cafe, why don't we make it social enterprise? So that's where the conversations came, and we now have the Little Social, which is excellent. So if you're ever at Rosanna Station during the day between 9 and 3, go and have a coffee, go have something to eat. It's perfect. Another really good example is Whispers. So Whispers Cafe at the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub in Ivanhoe, our beautiful new library, ground floor. There's a social enterprise cafe there, and they make really good coffee, and they've got great food.
And okay, so I have had a coffee and food at that one, so I've got that one covered.
Good. So they're just two examples.
Yeah. Okay.
Where we find opportunity, we see opportunity, and go, hey, let's do this.
So we talked about we've talked about momentum and how it's not so much we've lost momentum, but time has moved, and the strategy is still there. But do you feel that the strategy is still a major priority for Banyule Council?
Oh, it still is, absolutely. This is, look, like I said, we've got officers who are really excited about these opportunities, and so they're actively seeking out and connecting with various stakeholders just as the opportunities arise. So council actually has goals to create 126 local jobs for local people, and those local people are the ones who experience barriers to employment. There are also 6 new local opportunities in this 5-year period. So you mentioned 2020 to 2025. So in that 5-year period, we're looking for 6 new local opportunities. And through the social enterprise partnership program, we can find the opportunities, we can connect with the relevant stakeholders, and we can work with those appropriate social enterprises to achieve these goals.
Yep.
And they're on board, they're on board. So for some residents, as I said earlier, for some residents, employment is really elusive and it's actually due to their experience of other people's perceived barriers, not what they think, not what they know. All right. So there are always going to be residents who live in Banyule who will always need a program like this. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a son who would probably be a very good fit into a program like this, especially with the social contact and the need that he has to try and develop social skills. Yeah.
So this kind of thing is probably perfect, a perfect opportunity. And you mentioned there was we talked about the fact that there's been a bit of a delay, or a modification of the time frame due to our lockdowns.
Yeah, well, I think I sort of raised that because I had a look at council's website where it does say, find a social enterprise, and I remember looking at it last year, and it didn't seem as though there's been any real movement in the last 8 to 12 months.
Okay, yeah. So, and that's fine, because we're actually, at the moment, the Belfield Community Hub is being constructed. And we've had a couple of tours there. And I was on a tour recently, must have been 4 weeks ago, last month, July. I was on a tour in the afternoon. I did take some photos, so I should actually post those. And it's simply, Belfield is still a work in progress. The Belfield Community Hub is still a work in progress, and we're getting there, and it's just a little bit delayed because of the lack of construction materials and sort of the limitations on staff as well. Obviously, the last few years, few months, we found that staff are not able to work for a couple of weeks at a time. So in October 2021. Council actually supported the recommendation to select For Change Co, which will operate the Belfield Community Hub Cafe in Banksia Street.
Yep.
All right, so there's another social enterprise cafe coming. It's actually in the Belfield Community Hub. This hub is due for completion by the end of the year at this stage.
Yep.
Now, if anyone wanted to follow that up, the minutes of that meeting are actually the 4th of October. 2021. So if you wanted to follow that up and see what's happening, that's where that information is. Obviously, that's on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's actually going to be in the Belfield Community Hub aside from the social enterprise?
So there's a variety of services. So there's maternal child health centre is going in. There are also spaces for meeting rooms. There's a childcare going in, childcare to replace, I think it's the Audrey Books childcare centre. So there's a new childcare centre going in there.
Okay.
What else? Meeting rooms, and various other spaces. Obviously, there are facilities as well. There are all sorts of different types of bathrooms. There are opportunities to connect technologically in that space. So that's just the hub,
yep.
And which is almost finished. And then earlier this year, the other building that is being constructed is the social housing.
Do you think, therefore, maybe there should be a grant specifically for identifying potential social enterprises where people build a business case, or do you think that's covered under existing business grants within local government?
The beauty of any grant, whether it's social enterprise or anything, is that there are two facets of a project coming together. The grant is the money, and then the applicant has the skill set and the knowledge. And our grants come from a variety of sources, and they are really invaluable to the contribution to our economic development, our economic environment, and to our residents, our community, who want to contribute to other people. So it's kind of in a similar vein to volunteering. Volunteers love to do what they do, and they're happy to give their time and their knowledge and their skills. When it comes to coming up to social, where you're talking about social enterprise, grants are great.
They're there to help.
They're there to help.
Yep.
They come from a variety of sources. And because look, I have had the privilege of sitting in a committee of sorts almost every year for the 6 years I've been on council, working out grants, looking at grant applications, and sitting with a group of us from a variety of backgrounds, from organisations and to our officers, to our CEO, sitting around a table and going, right, these are our grant applications. How do they meet the criteria of whatever the theme is? And how, and the focus is benefiting the community as well. They've got to benefit the community. And we look very strategically at the grants. And they're fascinating conversations, because while you might sit there and go, this is a great idea and this is a great application, and then you start working out how it applies to the theme and what they're asking for and how much. So they've got to sit down and work out the dollars.
Yep.
And then you work out, and then you might look at it and go, well, this aspect fits the criteria. We're happy to offer this, but this part of it over here probably doesn't fit the criteria. It needs more skills. It needs a license. It's not quite fitting the theme of the application. And so we can't offer the whole amount. We can offer this amount. And our challenge also comes down to, we have X amount. So this, we've got this amount for all of these grants. And we want to be able to help everyone. And we actually end up going, yep, we can give everybody something, but not everything. So we have to be really strategic.
And look, obviously, just like any normal grant process, the economic officers within council can provide guidance to your business cases as you're building them.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I will add this. I've spoken with a few people who write grants. They're volunteers within their organisation, and they write the grants, and I hear what they put into the grant writing, and they actually make personal sacrifices to create a grant. It is absolutely amazing how much people put into writing a grant for their organisation, and they're not being paid for it. And for some of them, it's hours of their time. And it is really admirable. And we know that sitting at the table, working out, you know, who can get how much for the grant. So, and the officers are there, and look, we do have some great officers. Karen's one of them. I usually put people onto Karen, a lady called Karen, if they ask me about grant.
Not from Brighton.
Not from Brighton. No. Oh no, she's no. She's fantastic. She is so knowledgeable about grants, and she sits with us as well and goes through and makes sure that, you know, we're on track and we're being strategic.
Okay. Well, so Alison, how would a potential social enterprise entrepreneur go about seeking assistance from council?
Oh, look, they can, like I said, they can actually start. They can always contact us directly if they wanted to. If they know us, it's a lot easier if they know us. But look, they can simply contact council directly on the landline 94904222.
Okay.
And ask to speak with one of the officers, or they can actually send an email through. And the email is enquiries@banyule.vic.gov.au. So they can always do that.
Okay, excellent. I mean, look, I truly believe that many people in the community would actually really get behind social enterprises. I mean, every time that there's a charity drive on, I mean, look at how the community gets behind and supports the Royal Children's Hospitals. I think people have a big heart. They want to be involved. They want to help. They want to give, or they want to support. Yeah. And especially when it's inside the local community, I think that's actually starting to really resonate with people nowadays as well, because it's something tangible that they can see. They see it within their community, and I think it actually means more to them. So it's just an interesting thing that I think we're going to see more of them. I really hope that that over the next 3 or 4 years we hit the targets they have in the strategic plan.
Well, the thing is, the way you talk about seeing more, what I've found really fascinating, certainly when I was mayor, as the mayor of a council, and there are 79 in Victoria, we actually meet as mayors. We meet regularly. So the mayors and the CEOs would meet once a month. They certainly were in 2020 when I was the mayor, and I just remember hearing what it was like for other mayors in their councils. And there are two things that I got from these meetings, and one of them was there is a significant difference between a rural council and a city council or a metro council, and what is important for them to function. And then the other significant thing is some councils really can't support their community in times like we've just had with COVID restrictions. You know, Banyule could offer waivers for their rates. They could offer discounts. And there were councils who just couldn't do that because they didn't have enough funding, because they weren't managing their finances as well, or they weren't operating as strategically as we do in Banyule. And I was surprised. I mean, I didn't know anything else, but I was actually surprised, and I really got how incredibly blessed we are in Banyule to be able to provide some of the services that we do. And so if there are more coming, it just takes conversation. It's just an idea. It's having an open mind. It's being in a conversation. It's being willing to share with your other networks. It's understanding that your council's there for more than roads, rates, and rubbish.
Yes.
You know, it is more than that. And look, a really good example, a great example of that is our inclusive employment program, which has just had its third program complete. and we've got another intake later in the year for next year. We actually shared that with Whitehorse Council last year. Okay, so we connect with Whitehorse. Our former CEO is now the CEO of Whitehorse Council, and so there's still an association there. So we shared that with council, the executive management team and their councillors, and now they're working on their own inclusive employment program within Whitehorse. Okay, and so that's all it took. It just took an idea, sharing it with someone who can do something about it, and those people being really open-minded, and then working through the possibility of that.
It's interesting the comment you made at the start there with roads, rates, and rubbish. Sure, they are important services. I don't think that anyone would dispute that. But I also believe that we talked about the thing with social enterprises. It really is about your community, your local community, and at a state government level, they've got to look at the whole state. So sometimes those things are just, they don't filter up that high. So it's good that that councils are thinking strategically, sharing ideas, and looking at what are some of the good things that we've got to look for in the future for our individual communities. So
and interesting you say that it doesn't quite filter up to the next level of government. I actually read, we have a council meeting on Monday night. All right, so the papers are out for people to read if they want to go onto the website and read those. But there is a report to council by the CEO about the Australian Local Government Association National Assembly, which was held in June. All right, now some of us went, I didn't go, but some of us went, and I read a statistic in that report last night that said that 4% of local government funding, so that's rates essentially, we as local council, 4% of the economic funding or economic input is 4% from a local government perspective, and yet local councils contribute so much more than just 4% to its community, to the economy, to services, so much more than that. So there's an imbalance between all three levels of government and their economic stakeholders.
Yeah, okay. Something to be aware of, I guess, but in a way that's it says a lot for the officers within each council that seem to be able to make a dollar stretch that little bit further.
And that's the responsibility as well of officers, and us, of course, because we have to make the decision as the councillor. But you're absolutely right. There needs to be creativity and strategy and care. And what I really appreciate about our officers is that they genuinely want the best for Banyule.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, look, thank you for your time today, Alison, and thank you all for listening to this podcast. Like everyone to join us next time on the Champion Chat, because Alison, we're going to have a bit of a look and delve deeper into the Banyule Youth Services.
We're going to be looking into that because September we traditionally hold our Youth Fest. And that is actually going to be held on Sunday, the 11th of September this year, after 3 years of not occurring. Very exciting. So so we will cover that in September, and I'm really excited, looking forward to it.
And for those, who would Youth Fest be aimed at? Sorry, let me try that again. Because obviously I get it, it's aimed at the youth, but if youth wish to attend Youth Fest, where will it be? How can they find out about it?
Okay, so Youth Fest, again, this year is being held at McLeod Park. And that's a lovely big park in between McLeod Station and the Aberdeen Road shops. So it's being held there. Again, lots of music and sporting activities and fun activities and painting and all sorts of things. Just fun things for youth, by youth.
Ages?
Sorry?
Age groups?
You're looking at 12 to 25.
12 to 25.
Yeah.
That's the 11th of September.
So Sunday, the 11th of September from midday to about 5 p.m. All right. And that is essentially led by our Banyule Youth Services. So that's a fantastic group of officers who are just amazing. They create so much. They're just, I don't know, I can say resources. Let's go with that. They create so many resources for our youth and allow for our youth to grow in Banyule and be well in Banyule, and are a really good group of officers who can connect well with our young people.
Yep.
And kind of parent figures as well, or anyway.
They relate.
Sorry?
They relate very well.
They relate very well to our young people. Look, I did pop something on my Facebook post. Must have been last week, I think, just following up our Banyule Youth Summit report card. Last week was presented to us, so that was the beginning of August. And I popped that on my Facebook page, so that's there if you wanted to have a look at that. But I've really shown a photo. There's a photo there of quite a few of the resources that are available to our youth for their information, really, to help them function in our society, and be well and knowledgeable. So Youth Fest is there. That's happening again this year. Very excited, and I'd like to think we can have a conversation around a bit more about how our youth are contribute to our community, but also supported by our council.
And I think that'll be a great one for our next podcast. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Alison.
My pleasure, Carl, as always. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.